Hello everyone. Now let us move into the topic of test automation. CarMaker offers different possibilities to make your simulation work a lot easier. One of the methods is test automation. Using it, you can perform simulation with varying parameters completely autonomously. There are different ways to implement test automation in CarMaker, and we will look at the common ones with the demo in this section. Now let us look into one of the methods of test automation, script control. Script control and CarMaker are parallel executable processes, which means that using script control it is possible to observe and react to a simulation in CarMaker. From the perspective of script control, the user can start a simulation, pause the simulation, and then even load multiple variables and parameters into the simulation, and restart a new simulation as well. It is also possible to start multiple simulations simultaneously. Script control uses Tcl programming language and is extended by CarMaker specific Tcl commands. These commands can be found in Programmer's Guide under chapter Script Control. Now let's have a look at some examples. First, let us open the script control window in CarMaker. You can open it from the CarMaker main GUI by clicking on Simulation, Script Control. This is then the CarMaker script control window. This provides two possibilities for the user. In the console, you can enter Tcl commands or CarMaker specific commands. For example, I'm just trying a simple log Tcl command saying hello world. The other possibility is to load a predefined Tcl file in the script control window. You can do that by clicking on Open, and you can select a Tcl file here in the example folder, for example. Now let us go inside the example folder. The example folder is present inside your project under Data Script by default. Let's open the script start stop Tcl. Let's take a quick look at the source code of the Tcl file. This Tcl file writes first a log, 50 seconds on Hockenheim, and then it loads the test farm from the selective path. Afterwards, the simulation started. The GUI waits for the simulation status running. Then once the status running is confirmed, it moves on the next command and then it waits for time 15 simulation seconds. After 15 simulation seconds, it reached the simulation stop. Now it waits for the status idle and the timeout is given for 10,000 milliseconds, and then again another log file command is given. 50 seconds of lane change ISO. The test run is loaded and the same process goes again. Let me demonstrate this now. Since the Tcl file is already opened, you can just start the execution of the Tcl file by pressing on start. In the main GUI, you can see that the test run is starting and the simulation is running. Now based on the script, the simulation should stop after 15 simulation seconds, and it has stopped, and now the second simulation, the second test run is also being executed. This one has then also finished after 15 simulation seconds. You can see that once you start execution of a Tcl script, you will get a pop-up saying script example start stop Tcl started, and after this, when this is completed, you will get another pop-up saying finished. The basic script control commands are given in the Programmer's Guide. You can see that under Help, Programmer's Guide, Script Control. This should provide the possibilities for new users to get familiarized with the language of Tcl. We also have definition for each and every example that is being used. All the examples and their exact functions are being described. In addition, for each and every use case, we also have particular specific commands which might be of interest for the user. Now let us look into one of the other methods provided by CarMaker to assist test automation. The test manager is a supervisor, which supports the user with an overview into of multiple test simulations. The file saved in the test manager is called as a test series and is postfixed by .ts. A test series in a test manager basically consists of a set of test runs that are executed automatically. However, a test manager offers a lot of functionalities to optimize the preparation, execution, and analysis of test runs. It is possible to use variations to modify parameters of a test run instead of creating a test run for each and every scenario. You can add script files to define certain actions which should be executed, either at the beginning or at the end of each simulation. The definition of a criteria used to judge the results can also be set up in a test manager. There's also a possibility to change the execution order internally for each simulation. It is possible to execute multiple simulations sequentially or parallel, depending to the user's requirements. Now let us look at an example for Test Manager. First, let us open Test Manager window. We can open Test Manager window by clicking on Simulation from the CarMaker main GUI, then on Test Manager. This is then the Test Manager window. First, let us look into some details about this particular window. And first, let us look at the execution model. We have the possibility to change the execution model in the Test Manager. You can change between the default sequentially to parallel as well. When we turn on the execution order as parallel, we also have the additional settings. By using this, you can set the number of parallel tasks you want to simulate at the same time. Then let us go into some additional options. It is also possible to add multiple parameters inside the test manager to help us improve the efficiency or the readability of our simulation framework. You can add for this a test configuration, vehicle file or vehicle, a test run, and inside the test run you have the possibilities to add then here variations, and you have also the possibility to add particular characteristic for our initial example. Let us consider braking. So a characteristic in this case could be imply the braking distance. I can specify here a characteristic with a value as a brake distance and calculate from this moment. And the brake pedal, the moment the brake pedal is actuated till the car comes to a standstill. I also have the possibility to add criteria. Since we consider braking, we can also consider a criterion to be the braking distance. If then the braking distance is less than, let's say, 15 meters in the simulation, it considers this as successful or pass. If it's more than, maybe it is a warning. And if it's beyond the factor of safety, we can consider that as a simulation failed. Other additional settings then is to group multiple test runs or multiple simulations together. And we have also the possibility to add additional settings in which we can define pre-processing and cross-processing tickle commands via external tickle files. They can also be set up from here as individual script control commands that can also be given by a tickle file. That's not then needed. And the last option in this tab is barrier. This is useful when you are performing parallel simulations. And if you want to simulate 5 simulations as an example in which the first 3 simulations are executed simultaneously, but then we want to wait till all the 3 of them are completed and afterwards we start the first one. We have then also possibilities to copy any of these options and paste them. We can delete them also. And we can start a particular test series in a test manager. And via the start button, we have also additional possibilities to run a particular test variation or test run that is being selected. And it's also possible, of course, then here to stop the test series or the particular test one, or to generate directly a formal test manager GUI report. Let's have a look at an example. We can open a predefined example test series from CarMaker by clicking on File, Open. Now let us look at the test series which is present inside our example folder under Vehicle Dynamics and Braking. Find the braking variation.ts test series. Now we can already see that if we open this test series, the test ones are grouped under a folder and which has a defined vehicle model and then two different test ones, which offers different parameters that are changed without the test ones in each variation. You can find descriptions for each of them in the description box below. Now the execution mode is selected as sequentially, and let us look now what happens when we start the simulation for a better overview. But first let me open IPG Movie, or you can also use Movie NX here. I will put the simulation preference to maximum and let me just start the test series. Then the first variation is being executed and you can see that all the variations are executed one after another. Now let me just stop the simulation in between. This can be done by just double clicking once the stop symbol, or you can use the drop down menu and stop the current test runs or test series. Now let us look into what exactly is happening in this particular test run. Because I can see here multiple variations, they're being set up. The first one I can notice is the speed value. If I click on the maneuver menu, I can see that the IPG driver speed is now showing in yellow and it's being denoted by a namespace variable. The namespace variable is used to define that this parameter can be changed externally as well. It's been initialized to 100. But for each and every variation, the value changed directly from the test manager. We also have the possibilities to change then the brake value, and also from the scenario editor, the roots road coefficient of friction for the left and the right side of the road can then also be changed from here. These are all possibilities that are offered by using the test manager in CarMaker. We also have additional possibilities then of generating a report which shows us all the results that we obtained from our simulation. Now let us try to set up a test manager test series by ourselves from scratch. Let us start by setting up our test run first. We click at File and Open, going to the examples, and in Vehicle Dynamics, Braking, and loading the braking test run. Now I would like to set up a test series for multiple variations in regards to speed and the overall load of the vehicle. Let us set up the name value for speed first. For this, we open the maneuver menu. We're going to speed under IPG driver and set up the name value with $. Then the name for the value then equals, here's an example as initial value 100. Now let us set up a name value also for load. We can close here the maneuver menu, go into parameters, load, and in the load menu, here's already 70 as car load set it. We can keep this and we write before load is name of the name value and 70 as value. We can also close this. And now at least we also have to save this test run and vehicle file because we're using here an example. Now test one is set up for us to set up our test series. And then we can start by including a test one, our test manager file. For this, we're going to add test one and can here choose our test one. Once that is set up, we have to decide the number of variations we would like to use in our test series. I'm gonna use 5 different variations here. It is also possible for us to copy everything and paste it as well. Now when you click on a test one and inside parameters you can see the type name and the values are grayed out. First, let's look at the types. You have n values, which is a specific value that can be changed inside the test one. Then key values, there are essentially and denote a greater part, so not just a value, but in a sense a whole different vehicle or a whole different powertrain or a whole different brake model. And it's also possible for us to include Tcl script and perform particular functions from the Tcl script as well. In our case, we are going to consider only the name values, and we have 2 name values in our test one. So we choose also 2 name values, and we can choose the name values we have set it in the test one. You can see when I set it up the name values here, the description is also updated in the GUI of the test manager. For the parameters now, when I click on each variation, the value has now become white, which means I can edit now. I am going to set at different speeds starting from 50 to 90. I think it would be easy for us to have it as 100. So let us increase that one by adding one more variation. Now for the loads, that's given by default as 70. Let me consider 2 different loads for half the simulation. I want to run the loads with 70, and for remaining I want to run the load with 100. Now the test series is set up. Let us first view at it before saving this. For this I open the movie NX and I'm changing the simulation preference to 3 times real speed. And then I'm starting the test manager. Hey, this is a bit slow. I will increase to maximum. And we can see that all the simulations and the first simulation is then executed. And I was speaking that each and every simulation are being executed simultaneously in sequence. Since we haven't defined any particular criterions, the results here means the simulation is completed. Now let us try to look at the report of our test series. We have multiple reports for different values here. And if we consider the first variation, the result here is passed, or here, as explained before, completed. And we can see the general information, like the test run name, the vehicle name, tires we are used, the description of the maneuver, and the most important information here is the difference in the n value that we are used when set it before. Similarly, you can see for each and every variation. So at least let us save our project of the test series. This you can save it with a choose name like you want. It is then saved as breaking.ts in your project. So with this, we conclude our topic of test automation using both Test Manager as well as Script Control. Thanks for watching.